Hey everyone, and welcome! Today, we're gonna unmask a holiday that's all about costumes, candy, and a little bit of spooky fun. So let's jump in and pull back the curtain on the surprising history of Halloween. Okay, here's a wild fact for you. Did you know that in the United States, Halloween is the second biggest holiday of the entire year? Yep, number 2, right after Christmas. So what makes it so incredibly popular?
Well, that's the big question we're tackling today. I mean, we all know the modern fun of it, but to really understand Halloween, we've got to travel way, way back in time. Let's start with the basics.
We all know it's that one special night, October 31st, right? It's famous for dressing up, getting tons of candy, and maybe telling a few scary stories. But have you ever wondered where the name Halloween even comes from? Turns out it's got a story all its own.
So, our first stop is the name itself. Where in the world did the word Halloween actually come from? Because, it didn't just pop out of nowhere. This is actually pretty cool. It all started with a Christian holiday on November 1st called All Hallows Day. Now, the night before that, October 31st, was known as All Hallows Eve. You can probably see where this is going, right? Over time, people just started shortening All Hallows Eve, and eventually, it just became Halloween. Simple as that.
But the story goes back even further than the name. Way further. To find the true origins, the real beginnings, we have to look at its ancient roots. And that leads us all the way to a festival called Samhain, which, by the way, is pronounced Samhain.
So imagine this, we're going back more than 2,000 years. The Celtic people in Europe celebrated Samhain, and for them this was a huge deal. It was a really important festival that marked the end of summer and the harvest, and it signaled the beginning of the long, dark winter.
So why was Samhain so important? Well, for a few key reasons. First, it was all about celebrating the end of the harvest. Second, they would ask their gods for protection to help them get through that really difficult winter. And here's the most important part. They believed that on this one night, the boundary between the world of the living and the world of the dead became super thin, and ghosts could actually return to Earth. And that belief, that ghosts could come back and walk the Earth, is the key to our very first modern tradition, wearing costumes. So, what exactly is a costume? Well, it's pretty simple. It's just any special clothes you wear to look like something or someone else. Like a monster, a movie character, whatever you want. But the reason we wear them today is completely different from why they started. Back then, the Celts were actually afraid of meeting ghosts, so they wore masks and different disguises to try and fool the spirits, hoping they'd be mistaken for a fellow ghost and just be left alone. Today, of course, it's all just for fun. Okay, so this brings us to our next big tradition. Once you've got your costume on, you head out the door, and it's time to ask that famous question, trick or treat. Trick-or-treating is that amazing tradition where kids, all dressed up, go from house to house collecting candy. But where did this whole idea of getting treats even come from? Believe it or not, this tradition also started because people were worried about spirits. A long, long time ago, people would leave bowls of food outside their homes as a kind of treat, hoping it would keep ghosts from coming inside. Over many, many years, that idea of giving out treats evolved into the tradition we know today, with kids going door to door to collect candy. All right, one last major tradition to explore. You have your costume, you have your candy, but what about that glowing carved pumpkin you see on almost every front porch? Yep, that carved pumpkin is called a jack-o'-lantern. It's probably the most classic Halloween symbol, right? A pumpkin with a spooky or silly face carved into it, glowing from a light placed inside. And just like our other traditions, the jack-o'-lantern had a much more serious job back in the day. It was actually placed outside the home specifically to scare away evil spirits on Halloween night. Now we just use them as fun, spooky decorations for the holiday. And hey, before we go, here's a little fun fact for you. Halloween has become so popular that some fans in the US have started celebrating it twice a year. Halloween in July is this growing trend for people who just can't wait for October to roll around. So there you have it, from an ancient Celtic festival designed to deal with ghosts to a modern night all about candy and fun, Halloween has changed so much over the centuries, it really makes you wonder, what new tradition do you think will be next?